ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਧਿਰ ਦੇ ਨੇਤਾ ਪੀਰ ਪੌਲੀਵ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਟੋਰਾਂਟੋ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਯੋਜਿਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਵੱਖ-ਵੱਖ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ, ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਉੱਪਰ ਨਿਸ਼ਾਨਾ ਸਾਧਦਿਆਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ, ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ, ਨਸ਼ਾ ਅਤੇ ਆਰਥਿਕ ਨੀਤੀਆਂ ਵਰਗੇ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਫੇਲ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਉਹ ਸੱਤਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਨਵੀਆਂ ਆਰਥਿਕ ਨੀਤੀਆਂ ਨਸ਼ਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣ, ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਸਪਲਾਈ ਵਧਾਉਣ, ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਸਿਖਲਾਈ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਡਾਕਟਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਲਿਆਉਣ ਅਤੇ ਬੇਲ ਰਿਫਾਰਮ ਵਰਗੇ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ ਉੱਪਰ ਪਹਿਲ ਦੇ ਆਧਾਰ ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਗੇ।
The crime, of course, is raging out of control. Crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder have ruled our streets after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. We know that this is partly because of Trudeau's catch and release policy, where he brings the same criminals into the system and then releases them out of the system the same day. The same 40 criminals arrested 6,000 times in 1 year in Vancouver. 6,000 people hit with baseball bats, stabbed in the chest, attacked randomly on the street because Trudeau brought in liberal bail, which allows the repeat offender to go out again and again and again. We know that he has caused massive drug overdoses by not only decriminalizing drugs in BC, but also by giving out taxpayer-funded hydromorphine, which is even stronger than heroin, rather than giving people treatment. And we know that people are getting into drugs because they feel hopeless. 35-year-olds living in their parents' basement after housing costs have doubled under Trudeau. The average rent has gone, for one bedroom, has gone from about $1,000 8 years ago to over $2,000 today. The average monthly mortgage payment has gone from $1,400 to $3,200. The average needed down payment for a minimum has gone from $22,000 to almost $50,000. And the share of a person's monthly paycheck required to make payments on the average home has gone from 39% to well over 60%. And well over 60% of your pre-tax income is required to own the average house under Justin Trudeau. That's because our incomes are too low and our housing costs are too high. This is life after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. Everything feels broken. Meanwhile, he turns over our democracy to foreign interference, allowing a foreign dictatorship to influence our elections, to support his election victory, to donate $140,000 to the Trudeau Foundation, and then to continue doing it by refusing to call a public inquiry to expose this interference and protect Canadians and our security in the future. Everything feels broken after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. But the good news is we're going to turn the hurt that he has caused into the hope that Canadians need. We're going to rely on the common sense of the common people, united for our common home, to do it. We'll bring home lower prices by ending the liberal carbon tax, which is expected to go up to 61 cents a litre. It's 14 cents a litre now. Trudeau wants it to go to 61 cents a litre. I'll get rid of it. We're going to get rid of the inflationary deficits by capping spending with a common sense dollar-for-dollar law requiring the government find $1 of savings for each dollar of new spending. We'll bring home powerful paychecks with lower income taxes that reward hard work, and by removing gatekeepers so that our immigrants can work in their professions. We have 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses banned from working in our hospitals because they can't get licensed. What's the solution? We need a national Blue Seal test that will allow immigrants to prove that they are qualified by simply taking the same exam that Canadians would take in order to get licensed. That way we guarantee the quality, but we allow people to be judged on their merits, not on their country of origin. We have the Red Seal already for the trades. You can become a Red Seal electrician if you pass the test, and then you can do electrical work in any province in Canada. It doesn't matter if you're born in Mumbai or Red Deer, Alberta. You take the same test, and then you have the same seal, and you can perhaps do the same thing for doctors. Good common sense. We need to get the gatekeepers out of the way to bring homes people can afford. We have the fewest houses per capita in the G7. Why? Because government gatekeepers delay permits, drive up costs, and block land from construction. So what I will do, I'm announcing, is that a Poilievre government will require big cities like Toronto and Vancouver to permit 15% more houses every single year, or I'll cut their infrastructure budget. We know city politicians care about only one thing, money. They want to spend, 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 spend. Well, they're not going to get money from the federal government unless they get out of the way and let builders build, 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 build. Build more, and guess what? If they build more than 15%, they're going to get a building bonus. Everybody likes a bonus. That will incentivize more housing construction. And we're also going to require every federally funded transit station have apartments all around and even on top. Why does Hong Kong have the only profitable transit system in the world? They build housing on top of the station. So seniors and youth don't even have to own a car. They get on the elevator, go downstairs, hop on the train. They're at their meeting. They say Hong Kong's the only place in the world where you leave late and arrive early. It makes sense, common sense. We're going to bring that home here to Canada. And I'm going to sell off 6,000 federal buildings. Big, ugly buildings. They're empty. People are working from home. Why not sell the buildings, turn them into housing? It's common sense to bring homes. We're going to bring home safety by ending catch and release and putting the repeat violent offenders behind bars for longer sentences. Good. We're also going to stop giving out taxpayer-funded drugs. Trudeau is giving out, he actually has heroin vending machines in Vancouver. I'm not kidding you. He gave $3.5 million to fund a company that has a heroin vending machine. You walk up, and you know a vending machine, normally you get a chocolate bar, you walk up and go tuk, 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 and out drops a hit of heroin. And guess what happens? The drug addict takes the drug, gets addicted, and then gets bored with the drug because it's not strong enough. So what does he do? Sells it to kids so that he can buy a more powerful drug, fentanyl. Fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than heroin, and it can stop your breathing like that. This policy has unleashed a massive drug overdose crisis right across this country. I'm going to end taxpayer-funded drugs and put the money into treatment and rehabilitation so that we can bring home our brothers and sisters drug-free. Yes, and we're going to bring home our freedom. Trudeau wants to censor the internet, which will destroy your business, by the way, because it'll only be the powerful companies that have lobbyists that get their content promoted on the internet. It will not be the independent voices in multicultural communities or the entrepreneurial YouTubers or the artists that the 14-year-old girl who starts playing guitar in her basement and posts something online and goes viral. They won't have a chance. They'll have to go through the cultural industry, the entertainment industry, hire lobbyists, and it will only be the rich kids that ever get a chance to have their voices heard. Only the big, powerful broadcasting corporations. I want freedom of expression, and so I will repeal Trudeau's C-11 bill, and I'll also protect our freedom from foreign influence. I'm banning all my MPs and ministers from any involvement in the World Economic Forum, and we'll be bringing in a foreign agent registry to expose everyone who does paid work to manipulate Canada's democracy on behalf of a foreign dictatorship. We'll have a full public inquiry with an independent, proven judge who will get to the bottom of Beijing's interference in our elections. These ideas are not revolutionary, they are common sense, and it's time to bring it home. Let me quickly address why we have inflation. Justin Trudeau has doubled our national debt. That means more money chasing fewer goods, which equals higher prices. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. He's bidding up the goods we buy and the interest we pay. It's just inflation. Now he's hitting us with a carbon tax, 14 cents a litre on the Canadian people and on the farmers who produce our food and the truckers who deliver it, which means our food becomes more expensive. What's my solution? One, my first act in government will be to eliminate the carbon tax. My first budget will eliminate the carbon tax. And by the way, Trudeau and the NDP want to raise the carbon tax to 61 cents a litre. 61 cents a litre! It's insane. I'm the only one who will get rid of it. Second, I'm going to cap government spending with a common sense law that requires politicians find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. I'll root out waste, like saving $1 billion by defunding the CBC. I'll also cut back on outside consultants and require that the bureaucracy do the work itself, in-house. Our bureaucracy is 30% bigger. Why can't they do the work? Instead of handing it off to $21 billion worth of consultants. That's $1,400 per household. The amount of money spent on consultants is up 100% under Trudeau in 8 years. I'll get rid of that waste, and that'll save more money. Bring down the cost of government so that we can bring down the cost of living. Eliminate the inflationary deficits and carbon tax. That's how we're going to bring home lower prices. I think under my leadership, housing payments will come down. Why? Payments are the result of two things: house prices and interest rates. Now, I don't control interest rates, but government deficits push interest rates higher because they compete for scarce credit and they increase inflation. And Anna knows this because she was in the mortgage business. When governments run big deficits, they push up interest rates. Right. When we balance the budget, it brings interest rates back down so that the monthly payment is lower. Then I'm going to require cities increase the number of houses permitted by 15%, or they'll be cut back on their infrastructure money. And if they build more, they'll get more money. This is going to unleash construction, build more homes, make life more affordable. So first of all, I've already been cleared, had background checks to be in cabinet because I'm a former cabinet minister. I have no problem with that. What I'm objecting to is he wants to bring me into a room, put a bunch of documents in front of me with information that we already know about Beijing's interference, stamp that information secret, and that would ban me under the law from ever speaking about it. If I speak about it, then I would go to jail. So effectively, what he's trying to do is silence me and prevent me from doing my job, which is to prosecute his bad behavior. I'm the leader of the opposition. My job is to hold him accountable. How could I do that if I'm muzzled? But I'm not going to let him muzzle me. We have two Conservatives that sit on the National Security Committee who can look at all these documents, and that will be more than enough to allow them to read the annex documents that are supposedly contain all this vital information. I think the answer is not to play games to silence opposition leaders. The answer is just to hold a public inquiry headed up by an independent, apolitical judge who can look at all the data, look at all the facts, and issue a ruling. 8 years ago, we had 150,000 fewer violent crimes than we have right now. Now, that was because when repeat violent offenders got caught, they went to jail, and they were afraid of the consequences. But furthermore, they were behind bars, so they couldn't reoffend. Now, what we see is the same violent reoffenders committing one crime after another, again and again and again and again, released often the same day. That's because of Justin Trudeau's bill, I think it was C-71. C-71? 75, C-75. And that bill allows repeat violent offenders back out to reoffend. We're saying let's take that tiny minority of people, put them behind bars, and keep them there. Trudeau partially reversed catch and release with his most recent announcement, but he did not go far enough. For example, what he's done is he's created a reverse onus. So a repeat offender will have to prove that it's safe for him to be released into the community before he can go out. That will mean more of them will stay longer behind bars, which is a good thing. However, still some will get out. I'll give you an example. The man who murdered Constable Pershella, because of his gun offenses, he already had to overcome a reverse onus, and still he was released. So he would still be released under the proposal Trudeau has put forward. And remember, he was on bail, killed the constable. He was out on bail. So we need to go further than a reverse onus. My view is that if you have a repeat violent offender who is newly arrested on a serious violent offense, it should be automatically denied bail or parole until they complete the trial, and if convicted, the sentence. So I believe in technology, not taxes. And my platform will include incentives for large industrial corporations to use technology to capture carbon, put it back in the ground where it came from, or use it as building materials, and it will also incentivize large industrial corporations to reduce their emissions for each unit of production. And will also incentivize businesses to bring home production, because when you, for example, produce a ton of aluminum in Canada, is about 70% less polluting than a ton of aluminum from the rest of the world. We use hydroelectricity to produce our aluminum here. So bringing home production brings down global emissions. And finally, I will green light green projects. We need nuclear power. I will speed up the process to approve nuclear energy. That is emissions-free electricity. I'll speed up the approval of hydroelectric dams. That's emissions-free electricity. And I will quickly green light wave power, like they were trying to build in Nova Scotia before Trudeau blocked them. So green light, green projects, bring home our production. When I'm Prime Minister, we will introduce more and tougher laws to combat corruption. We introduced the Accountability Act, which helped expose the corruption in SNC-Lavalin, We Charity, and other similar scandals. But there are still some loopholes. For example, Justin Trudeau takes free gifts, like a vacation to a private island, where the rooms go for $9,000 a night. Can you imagine a $9,000? I don't even know what that. No. Like, are the walls made of gold or something? $9,000 a night. Like, you can buy a car. Not a very good one, but you could buy a car with what it costs to put Justin Trudeau up for one night on vacation. But that's gifted to him. And he's allowed because it came from a friend. You know, I think that we need to have tougher laws to prevent those sorts of abuses. You know, it's one thing to crash at your buddy's cottage for a weekend, maybe go out on his canoe and do some fishing. It's another thing to get an $80,000 vacation from someone who's a donor to the Trudeau Foundation. And we need to have clearer laws to prevent people from buying influence in that way. I think we need clear laws to more quickly expose how dollars are spent, and we need more laws that prevent politicians from covering up the lobbyists that are influencing them. And finally, we need a foreign influence registry to expose anyone who's paid by a foreign government to influence politicians. Listen, I vote non-confidence in Justin Trudeau all the time. That problem is that Jagmeet Singh is in a coalition with him. Together, they have a majority. So it's up to Jagmeet Singh to decide when the election happens. As long as he backs Trudeau, we're stuck with this mess. I'm Pierre Poilievre is ready to become Prime Minister tomorrow to bring home common sense. A couple of things. You asked two questions, really. One is this the only solution? And the second is, what would this do to people who already purchase houses at high prices? Okay, so let's start with the first one. It's the most important solution, because the problem we have in Canada is that we don't have enough houses. It's that simple. The Americans have 10 times the population on a smaller landmass, and yet their housing prices are significantly lower than ours. What could possibly be the cause of that? Well, they have far more homes per capita. They allow builders to build. So you can get a very nice house for $200,000 or $300,000 in the States. Even sometimes there's a picture I put out the other day, Niagara, Canada, Niagara, the US. So the difference really is just government gatekeepers block construction here. That's the biggest problem. There are some smaller problems, like government deficits drive up interest rates, which make mortgages more expensive. We need more trades workers. So I want to speed up immigration for building trade workers, allow building trade unions to sponsor immigrants, bring them here on work permits, and then they can become permanent residents and citizens. And I want to give the same financial support to trades as we give to professions. Right now we give everything to universities and white-collar education. We need more for the people who we train to build stuff, fix stuff, move stuff, and improve stuff. That is, so those are some of the smaller issues, but the big issue really is to get the gatekeepers out of the way. What is this going to do to people who bought high? Well, I'll be honest, I don't see house prices come crashing down no matter what we do, but I can see us moderating them and allowing incomes to catch up with house prices. The problem we have right now is that incomes have gone like this and house prices have gone like this. And you can see it, and the multiples of the number of years of income it takes to buy a house has skyrocketed in Canada. And when you use that multiple, Vancouver is the 3rd worst in the world, Toronto's the 10th worst in the whole world, worse than Manhattan, Singapore, etc. What we need to do is have incomes rise faster than house prices. That's the only way that housing will become affordable. To do that, we need to build, build, build. Other options, you mean, when you say training, you mean for new immigrants? We do have programs already, the immigrant settlement money that the federal government puts aside for newcomers to integrate into the Canadian economy. I think the best way, though, to make sure that immigrants succeed in our economy is to make it employer-driven and make it so that employers can quickly sponsor newcomers on work permits to fill jobs that Canadians cannot fill, and then create a pathway for those newcomers to go from a work permit to a permanent residency and to citizenship. That way, we know that they're coming here for a job that actually exists because they'll be sponsored by someone hiring them. They will already have the training that qualifies them for the job, or they can continue to learn on the job. I also think unions should be allowed to sponsor, because we forget a lot of the trade unions do the training. They're not just advocates. They're actually training. If you go to the training halls, the iron workers, the carpenters union, they're training centers. And the head of the laborers union, LAUNA, tells me he needs 50,000 workers, and he can train them. He can get them working today on jobs where they're building skills and earning at the same time. Earning and learning, instantly contributing to building our country. That's how Canada was built. Like the waves of Italians and Portuguese who came over, and they joined LAUNA. You know, I have an Italian buddy. I go to his folks' house for a big Italian dinner every once in a while on a Sunday, and he's got his big LAUNA plaque on the wall. And he came over, worked in construction, paved roads, built bridges. That's how the country was built. Waves after waves of immigrants who built stuff and then gave their kids a better opportunity. Yep. And that's the common sense immigration we need to restore. I don't, because I don't know who they are. There is public information about conservative candidates who were targeted for defeat by the Chinese government. Bob Soroya, for example, who was running in Markham. We know for a fact that the government, the Beijing interfered to try and defeat him. Kenny Chu in British Columbia, and others are suspected to have been victims of interference by Beijing. But I don't have any conclusive or credible information on anyone knowingly participating in interference by Beijing. My message to CSIS or any other law enforcement is, if there were any members of my party who knowingly conspired with a foreign dictatorship to undermine our democracy, well, they should be kicked out of the party. And if they broke laws, they should be prosecuted. But I have no firm or credible information that would identify any such person. We need to speed up processing. We have a much larger bureaucracy now, but it's producing less output. We have more public servants working at Immigration Canada, but fewer applications processed per agent. So I'm going to be demanding higher performance and faster processing by the existing bureaucracy to get results. We'll streamline unnecessary processes and delays so that we can eliminate the backlog. We're also going to bring in some common sense reforms, like making sure that once someone is here, they immediately get a work permit so they can get a job. They're waiting to have their case heard. They might as well be working. Why would we want them on welfare when they want to be in a job? So quick work permits. We should also streamline more obvious cases. If someone has been here working in our country on a work permit, they followed the law, they've learned enough English or French, then why not fast track them to PR and citizenship with fewer steps I think if we limit the number of hurdles in obvious cases, then we can reduce the wasted paperwork and delays and get the results we need. We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. Justin Trudeau has increased the cost of the federal government by almost 70% in 8 years. That's almost a 10% annual increase in the cost of government. Remember, he added $100 billion in debt before COVID even started, and he's added about $150 since COVID ended. So it's not just COVID-19 that caused the debt. It's rampant, out of control government spending, increased year after year. We need to legislate discipline, the discipline of scarcity. Every creature in the universe, the birds in the trees, the fish in the seas, must live with scarcity, maximize use of limited resources. Every creature except the politician. The politician puts the scarcity on everyone else by printing money to cause inflation, by raising taxes, or by adding new debt. I want to bring in a law that caps spending and requires politicians find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. And that would force the bureaucracy to go hunting for waste. Right now, there's no incentive for that. If you ask a bureaucrat, do you want to spend on A or on B? He'll say, both. It's not my money. So what if you said to him, well, you've got it, here's your option, Mr. Bureaucrat. You can either have A or B, or you can get a bargain on A and B. That is to say, find a way to do it less expensively. Then the bureaucrat has to go hunting and do what a single mom does in her household. She wants to build a patio in the backyard. Well, she skips the vacation, or she gets a deal on the vacation, gets some used wood so that she builds the patio on budget. These are the trade-offs you make in your home that small businesses make every day. Politicians and government must make those same decisions. If you cap government spending, then you could easily balance the budget and lower taxes. That's what I'm going to do. But it's not just spending. We have to unleash the production of our economy. We don't produce in Canada. Government gatekeepers prevent construction. So let me give you an example. Everyone's talking about electric car batteries. You need lithium to go in those batteries. Good news, we have the 6th biggest supply of lithium in the world. Bad news, in 2021, we did not produce a tablespoon of lithium. Why? Because it takes as long as 25 years to get a permit to build any mine in Canada. So we import the lithium products from China. They burn coal in China to produce lithium for electric car batteries. So you see people driving around in their electric car thinking they're doing a wonderful thing for the environment, not knowing that they contributed to coal burning industry in China to pay for it. I will speed up permits for mines. We have the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario, where they have the minerals needed for electrification, but we've been talking about it for 20 years. They're not mining anything. They can't even get a highway built to the future mines. Why? They're waiting on permits. But we need to remove the government gatekeepers, speed up approvals, so that we can bring home the production to this country. And I will reform the tax system so that we stop giving breaks to companies that ship our money out of the country and instead give them incentives to bring home their production back to Canada. That's what I mean when I say bring it home. We have to protect our own currency. We can't control what the Americans do. The Americans, frankly, the Federal Reserve in the United States is ruining America's dollar because they printed all that money during the last few years. And even recently, when they had this Silicon Valley Bank failure, the Federal Reserve again started printing money. Well, that ruins the purchasing power of the greenback. If you have too many dollars, then they become less valuable, and it renders the American dollar vulnerable to international competition by a competitor currency. So we can't control that, but what we can do is control our own money. And I want the Bank of Canada to get back to doing one thing and one thing only, protecting the buying power of our money. That's the only job of the Bank of Canada. By keeping money supply in line with the growth in the output of goods and services. If you grow money faster than you grow the goods and services it buys, the money drops in value and you have inflation. more than that, you threaten your own country's ability to control its currency. So I will bring in a new bank governor who will stick to the strict goal of low inflation and strong purchasing power. I couldn't agree more. You're absolutely right. That is the worst possible scenario. That's why I think we need the economic immigration to be employer-driven. If you have an employer that sponsors an immigrant and makes the commitment to employ them for a set period of time, then when they arrive, they get off the plane and they go to work instantly. And that is the best security that they can have, is a paycheck. Bureaucrats in the government can't guess who's going to be employable. We can try, but we try. In the 1990s, we brought in a lot of professional immigrants because we thought it made sense. They've got PhDs, the smartest people around, let's bring them here. The problem is they didn't necessarily have jobs that matched their skills. So many of them were underemployed. And a lot of them feel regret, frankly, if we're being honest. They came here as engineers or professors and they ended up doing other things with low wages. If instead of having bureaucrats try to cherry pick who are the best immigrants for our labor market, we have the employers and the unions bring people over for whom there's already an open job, then the newcomer will not be disappointed when they land here. They'll instantly get into a workplace and a paycheck, which is what we want for them and for us. Excellent. We'll keep doing those sorts of things. And like I said, if any of you are aware of issues that we should be raising on behalf of your respective communities, please reach out to us. We're happy to champion you. We can assign members of our caucus to specialize in the relevant policy area, carry the ball over the finish line, and get things done. So we'll be there for you. You're welcome in our home. We need to take back control for the common people. The hardworking people feel like they've lost control of their lives. But the good news is we live in the best country in the world. We're right next to the biggest economy. We have 4 coasts, massive land mass, farmland, resources, smart people from all around the world. The best people in the world have come to Canada and are in this country. So I'm very optimistic about the future that comes, and it all relies on the common sense of the common people. United for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home. Thank you.